It's Cardboard Time, episode number 102, and I'm your host, Arwen Kathke. On today's episode, I have reviews of Foundations of Metropolis and Marrakesh, as well as the top 10 new-to-us games in 2024 that we can't stop thinking about, and I promise that I will explain that whole word salad at the back half of the episode. And to do that, I have my very special guest with me today, Olivia Lothary. Hi, Olivia.
It's me.
Yes.
Hi. I listened to our last episode, which was a year ago, same thing. We spent 30 minutes chatting last year before getting to our list, and I just anticipate that's going to happen again.
Of course it is. That's what we do.
That's what we do. It feels nice.
So is anything up with you that the listeners should know about at all? What's been happening with you and this crazy world of ours?
Yeah, I bought a house, which feels very important because I've been at conventions less. So bought a house a couple months ago, which has been a big deal. I've now been at Flat River Group for a year now, too, which is feeling fantastic.
It's amazing.
It's really nice. You're going to see at least two of my publishers that I work with on my list because I love their game so much. But yeah, just keeping busy in the typical unprecedented times.
I think work is definitely helping with that. Recording podcasts is helping with that. Playing games is certainly helping with that and keeping community. So I've been doing a little bit of that myself. I've been gaming a lot and, just living in this house. So glad to hear about the house. I've seen that you have done some choosing of paint colors for the walls that you're posting. So I am getting those updates.
They only took me 2 months. I have the stack of paint chips that I had brought home and was looking through and thought that I had picked this is the color and then switched it a bunch. It is a couple inches thick. Oh. So I'll find a use for those someday.
Yeah, they just kind of stack up and then they get pushed to a corner and then you see them a year later and you're like, oh yeah, I was going to paint the wall.
Yep.
Or I did paint the wall and I forgot to get rid of these.
Yep. That's essentially my shelf of shame right now is the paint chips.
Yeah. And that is a very valid one as well. So let's talk about that shelf of aspiration. And it is at 127 right now for me. So I will say, I was comparing, and I will do a final count at the end of the year. But I was comparing my start of the year to this, and it is down significantly from where we started. So that is a plus.
That for you. Like I said, I had gone back through and listened to our episode from last year. I noticed one of my updates is that I still have not played my copy of Obsession, which has been sitting on my shelf for years. I know you're giving me a face right now. You have to teach me. The next time I come to Ohio, you just have to teach me because I got to get it off.
Which I'm hoping is soon because I finally actually got my physical copy of Obsession played a couple of months ago. So I was in the same boat. I have played it so much online, loved it online, and never played the physical version. And then I did and fell in love with it all over again. Yeah. It's so good. That rule book is crazy, though.
The rulebook scares me, which is why I have not touched it. But the theme and your assurance that it is a great game has kept me I'm going to leave it on my shelf. I will play it someday. Forgot that it was on BGA. So maybe someday we should plan a little date and you could teach me and we can just play it there.
I think you and maybe Allie and I should play because she has played it now. She is a veteran of Obsession and really enjoyed it as well. Good.
2 stamps of approval that I care about.
Just ignore the pie chart in the rules manual.
Okay.
It was so crazy.
Good to know.
I'm okay, so here's a nice friendly game about Victorian society, and there's a pie chart.
Yeah. Yep.
That's what I needed. That's what I needed in my life. Okay, so let's go down this list because incoming to the collection were 17 games.
That's wild. I love it, though.
It's been, so there's been a convention in there. There has been Black Friday in there.
Yep.
There has been the Hollandaise sale, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Just calling that Hollandaise. And the pun is so good. And other things. So there were a lot of things that came in and some things that got played. So we'll talk about what got played after this. So first of all, coming in, the first thing was PAX Premier 2nd Edition. This was a gift from Stephen Vesey, which I did get to play.
Yay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I got to play it online with Alyssa, and I just want to get my physical copy out so much more now.
Playing with those pieces, the like weight of the pieces and the shape of them is really nice. The cloth map it's the table presence alone is really, really nice for me.
So well produced. I mean, and that's to be expected considering, that it was coming from Whirligig, but
Yep.
Looking forward to getting that one to the table. Aqua is a little small box game from Tate Wu. Looking forward to getting that to the table. Haven't had an opportunity yet. That is a 2-player specific game. Really quick, little small card box. Looking forward to that. From the Hollandaise sale, City of Six Moons, the darling right now from Amabel Holland's solo game where you basically have to translate everything. We talked about it in episode 100. I am really looking forward to playing that.
That one sounded so good. And she always comes up with her ideas are just so clever. So I'm always excited to see like what new game she's putting out.
Yeah, and everybody's been raving about it and talking about how good it is. I took a peek and I've already started like going over in my mind what different things could be. And, I think it's going to take putting myself into that mindset of puzzle solver, of, kind of like that historian trying to decipher everything, I think is going to be so incredibly cool. And the fact that I will never truly know if I'm correct or, there's a lot of exploration to be done with that. I'm super thrilled. X2, she made another one. I did not play the original 4X game, but Amabel basically, kind of talked about all of the wonderful properties of dry erase markers and said that this was like revolutionary for her. So I'm interested to play this. I have heard that the original 4X is very polarizing and looking forward to playing this as well. Kaiju Table Battles is another one from her that I'm looking forward to. Everything is hand-packed, which is just so cool. It's a really nice touch. Amabel just kind of signed everything at the bottom corner of all the envelopes and that. And it's just a really nice little production. Korra Rise of an got that and played that, as well as Maki Master. That was by KTBG.
Yes.
That one, was basically kind of like a Black Friday sale. I wanted it really bad. And Allie was talking about it, so I had to get that. And did get to the opportunity to play that at PAX Unplugged. That will be talked about on a future episode. Sky Team I've already played. Had to have that,
I haven't played that one yet.
It's so good.
Fair, I have a huge fear of getting on an airplane. Mostly, if anybody knows me, the day that I land from a flight, I am so drugged up because I'm so fearful. So in my head, I think like, surely I shouldn't play this game because like, if you do it wrong, you will crash. But I'm like, it's a board game. I hear so many good things about it.
It's excellent. If the next time you're in Ohio, like we're gonna say that we're gonna do all this stuff and maybe do 50% of it, but I really want to play this with you because I think that you dig it. Cool. It's a really great co-op game. Hansa Teutonica Big Box. This was a Black Friday clearance. Heard a lot of very good things. It is incredibly dry, incredibly pale, and kind of gray, and I've heard
just,
the game
I
play is good.
I cannot do boring pale gray on my table. I can't.
I'm gonna see if it has any staying power. Maybe I'll just like paint the board or something. I don't know. Landmarks. I did get this from Floodgate Games at PAX Unplugged. This was a review copy. I also got that to the table multiple times during the weekend and will be reviewing that on a future episode as well. Canopy Evergreen. This was one that I picked up from Weird City Games. I enjoyed Canopy well enough, but it wasn't the game that I was hoping for it to be. It was a little bit too light for me. I think it was fine. It was streamlined. I actually gave my copy away to a friend who I thought would appreciate it more. And then when I had my meeting with Tim, talking about what Evergreen does and kind of adds to the system is exactly what I was hoping for. So I'm really hoping that this one is a hit for me. I feel like it's going to be a solid game. Snatch It is a weird card game that if you follow me on Blue Sky, you have seen me post about. There's some card art.
There's some choices were made for that card art.
We're still trying to figure it out. Like, I just don't know. I just have no idea.
I feel like regularly it gets you talking, right? Like in my head, it is a game in which those cards have me wanting to talk about it more. I know nothing. I haven't played the game. All I know is that card art, and I am interested in at least giving that one a shot because it's so funky.
The card art is funky, and it is a completely mean game, but it's that over-the-top mean that it doesn't feel like it's targeted.
Yeah.
It just feels like this is the right play to do, and I have to do it.
Yeah.
So I did get to play that and enjoyed that. I don't know if it's going to be worthy of a review, but I will be playing more of it. So I liked it well enough. It's staying in the collection for the time being. For the very least, to show all of my friends the card art in person, and so that they can see just how wonky and crazy it is. Torchlit and Mutation were two games that I bought at the Indie Night Games Market at PAX Unplugged. And again, I will extol the virtues of this event until I'm old and gray. I think that this was fantastic. I am really, really looking forward to Torchlit. I think that it's going to be a really cool trick-taking game. Mutation is a game with really big, chunky dice that Jonathan Cox designed, and it looked appealing. Going through the rules, it looks like it should be a pretty decent game. Foundations of Metropolis. This one I will be talking about on this episode, and I did get to play it, obviously, or else I would not be talking about it, hopefully. Abduction was a cute little game with a bunch of little tiny plastic ducks that you get to take out of a little UFO.
The name Abduction?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, we love it.
That was a deep discount Black Friday kind of sale on their website, and I'm looking forward to this one. It doesn't look like it's like anything too heavy or complex, but I think from the table presence alone, I think that it's something that maybe I could get out with some of my lighter gamer friends. And who doesn't love plucking ducks out of a UFO? I'm just going to throw that out. And then finally, I did get a review copy of Lemon Game. This is by an independent publisher that contacted me at PAX Unplugged. Went to RIT. So I connected right there and then. So I'm looking forward to playing Lemon Game, hopefully coming up soon and talking about that on the podcast as well. Now to get into the played games, just besides I can't talk tonight. Besides the stuff that I already talked about, I did get Hamburg to the table. Kind of disappointed.
Is that the wheel? The hamster? That's not the hamster wheel one.
That's not the hamster wheel one.
Not wildly off over here.
The hamster wheel one was Amsterdam.
Yes. Yeah.
And then Hamburg is just like the multi-purpose cards.
Yes.
Which I think it's another game that like I like some of the aspects of it, and I like some of what it's trying to do, but there remain a lot of issues from the production that I was not thrilled with.
I immediately have to look it up on Board Game Geek because I'm trying to remember what. Yes. No. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Again, wish it was better, but that one is on my one more and decide what to do with it shelf. Mega Man Adventures, I think, was a perfectly serviceable dice game. I thought that it did fine for what it was. In that kind of vein, I think that Sonic Roll did things a little bit better, and I will be sticking with Sonic Roll. Probably playing this one a couple more times before deciding what to do with it, but I'm liking Sonic Roll a little bit better. Marrakesh is one that I will be talking about on tonight's episode as well, that had a different fate than Hamburg. I will just point that out. And I think that was it. I think we talked about everything else. So the big Shelf of Aspiration update that only took me like 10 minutes to do. So
I'm really impressed, though. We got that down in good timing.
We did, because we have a lot to talk about.
We do.
So I'm going to go through the two reviews, and then we are going to get into the back half of the episode after that. What everybody's here for at the end of the year. They want to know what the games we can't stop thinking about are. But one game that I did get played at PAX Unplugged was Foundations of Metropolis. This plays from 2 to 4 players in 45 to 60 minutes, designed by the one and only Emerson Matsuuchi. You may know Emerson from the Century series of games. That's where I first got to know of his work. Big fan of those, so I was excited to see what this would do. The art is by Joe Shawcross and published by Arcane Wonders. In Foundations of Metropolis, players will compete over 3 rounds to be the greatest architect in the city by purchasing deeds to empty lots and constructing new buildings on them. More complex buildings require more lots, but will bring you even greater prestige. The player with the most prestige will be appointed Grand Architect. Gameplay is the same in this standalone game as in Foundations of Rome, but with polyomino pieces and a brand new theme. So I did pick this up on Black Friday for $30 from God's a Lot of Games. I was thrilled with that price point because I was ready to pick it up for $50 just on the spot at MSRP, and it was discounted to $30. I'm like, okay, sure. Don't take 20 of my dollars. That's absolutely fine. But the reason for picking this up, I've been excited about this for a while, and I have talked about it on the podcast before on a couple of previews. I wanted to try Foundations of Rome, but I could never really find anyone in my core game group that had it. I didn't feel like dropping over $200 for the game. In some cases, it's like $280, $290. And it's a majestic game, great organization system, lots of, buildings that you're building up. It looks incredible on a table.
That's right. It has all of the plastic pieces. Yes. I remember this one. This one was stunning to look at, but equally, I don't have that kind of cash.
Not for the... So originally I thought not for the kind of game that this is. However... Ooh. We will talk about that.
Ooh.
So I was just thrilled that this version kind of came out because I was able to then try this at a much reduced price point, and really, other than the expansion content, I was able to try that core game and see if I even liked it before looking further, and now I have this, so I can at least play the core game like this. The core gameplay loop is basically that you're utilizing a sliding market. Properties that haven't been purchased yet slide down and get cheaper over time. And you're using those to get your player pieces onto the board. So you buy up a property, you put a little tile down showing that you own it. Once you make a shape with those pieces that matches something on your player board, you can take one of your turns and basically replace those pieces with a little shape. And what those little shapes do are a number of things. You can increase your income potential, you can increase your population, which gives you points at the end of the round. And some of the tiles actually pair with other tiles to give you different point scoring opportunities as well. So that's pretty much it. You have a limited amount of player pieces that you can put out, so you are going to want to put these pieces out and basically recall some of those smaller pieces so that you can get those back to buy more property and expand. But you're also going to want to get that extra income potential and other things. My first impression on unboxing the game is that the quality is still really, really good for the price point. I think for the price point it is more than fair. The insert is fantastic. It holds everything in place. You're bringing the player boards out and they have all of your pieces ready to go, organized, and you just plop it down. Basically, pick out your player color, place a few pieces on it, shuffle the cards up, and then go. So that was really satisfying. The teach was very straightforward as well. And I think that the market in this was really the star of the show. I found myself kind of weighing out the timing between, do I purchase plots of land that I need at full price when they're really expensive, but then I secure them? Do I let them slide down a little bit, but then my opponent might be able to pick them up? So it was constantly that push and pull of how do I approach this? How do I make the best decisions possible with my actions? So I thought that that was really good. There's multiple different paths to victory, which I always like. You can focus on your population growth or income, or you can just go for straight up victory points, increase your economy so that you're able to buy exactly what you want, and try to get all the shapes out there that are going to get you the most points or whatever you want and help you out the most. So I thought that that was really good. Our games have been very, very close. One game was within 1 point.
Oh, wow.
And I think the board goes up to something like 150 or something like that. So it was very, very tight. It was a really good game and really close. It was anybody's game, but it was just a matter of one decision over another that took it. So there's a lot to like here, but a very simple system, very easy to teach as well. So I enjoyed it. From a color vision perspective, because I always had to talk about it, the different player colors are represented by different shapes on both the bits and the tiles to denote ownership. So I didn't have any issues with figuring out who owned what. The green and blue were a bit close to me as far as colors go. So that shape definitely did help quite a bit.
Looking at it on BGG, if I don't know how much you can see, but it definitely is like, this is a teal color and this is like a lavender purple, rather than that very obvious distinction between colors, which, like, for those of us who aren't colorblind, it is it's a nice, unique choice, but I am glad that they threw in those different shapes because that is key.
Yeah, that really, really helped me out, and I was very happy to see that because that could have been limiting to how many people that I could play this with, as opposed to, 2 or 3, I can play with a full complement of 4, which is great. So for my final thoughts, I really, really enjoyed my time with this. This actually really makes me want to try Foundations of Rome now to see if it's worth actually investing in that big game, to see if the expansions add enough, to see if that content is there for me. But this was enough to get me interested to that point. And I'm still thrilled that I have this version of it because I can still introduce it to friends, get them familiar with the system, I still feel like there's a good amount of gameplay here. I do feel like it could get a little bit repetitive after a certain amount of plays because you just have that limited player board of what you have in front of you, where the expansions would potentially add different player powers or different pieces, different monuments. So this one's definitely staying on my shelves, at least until I play Foundations of Rome. But this will, definitely satisfy me. And I'm really happy, and I did say this before, but I'm really happy that Arcane Wonders did make the decision to release this and make it available in a little bit more of an economical format. For those who don't have, the monetary resources, for those who don't have the shelf space, they're able to still get this system and play it. So what does it look like to you, Olivia? Are you interested in playing this?
Immediately. Of course, I am over here checking it out on Board Game Geek. And Foundations of Rome had interested me as well, but for all the same reasons that you had mentioned, I wasn't going to invest that much. I love it when I have the opportunity to kind of play that pared down version. That being said, it does, from what I can see, it doesn't seem like it is they didn't skim, right? They made sure that the components still had a presence on the table. I do like the colors. I'm obsessed with polyomino games, so it's always going to be a yes for me.
And I think one of my favorite parts of the polyominoes were the tiles that gave you a bonus for the adjacency.
Yep.
Which made a very interesting puzzle because you could potentially take, some pieces that you played early in the game and build over them in order to get bigger pieces out on the board and get the right pieces out on the board that you need. Because that always is something that you can do as long as you're building up. You are able to build over some of those smaller pieces. So
love that.
I thought that was a really cool addition, and it's a really unique part of the puzzle for me.
Yeah.
So, so hopefully, that'll be one that next time you're in town we get to play, and hopefully I get to play Foundations of Rome at some point.
Yeah.
If you have it and you're in the area, let me know, because I would definitely, I would love to check that out for sure. But that was Foundations of Metropolis. And the other game that I wanted to talk about today was Marrakesh. This is from 2 to 4 players, 120 minutes, designed by the one and only Stefan Feld, who we've had a troubled relationship with on the podcast as of late. Not necessarily always his fault. I'll just put it that way. The art is by Patricia Limburger and Franz Vohwinkel, and this was published by Queen Games. So compete with other influential families in the city to achieve the most honorable titles through the skillful use of assistance and resources at your disposal. The player who succeeds in doing this best becomes the new Obermufti of Marrakesh. Marrakesh is played over 3 rounds, with each round consisting of 4 turns. On each turn, players simultaneously and secretly choose 3 colored cylinders from behind their screen. Then in turn order, they place matching colored assistants on their player board. These will be the actions that they will perform later. Then all cylinders are placed in the cube tower. The cube tower randomizes what cylinders are available this round, with some getting stuck and some from previous rounds coming out. In turn order, players select a color and take 1 to 2 of the cylinders, which I think it was all the cylinders of that color that pass through the tower. Either that or I got rules wrong. Or those that were stuck from a previous round but have now emerged, and place them on their player boards. These cylinders will enhance future actions taken in the same color in future rounds. And then in turn order, players will activate the regions where they have placed an assistant. Actions allow players to gain wealth, which can be traded for influence in the city. Performing various actions also earns bonuses and enhances actions even more as the game proceeds. The player who scores the most victory points by the end of the game wins. So this was the last of the 4 in the city collection that I backed on Kickstarter. Y'all that have been with me for the duration know about how excited I was about this, and now how I am finally getting through these. And this is my last one. I guess you could say that I saved the best for last because this was by far and away the best of the collection. So that is a little bit of a spoiler. But those of you who have listened also know that that isn't necessarily saying much either.
Yeah.
So I think, the biggest thing that hit for me here was the cube tower. And I know some people have said, well, the cube tower isn't really needed. You could just do the blind draft and then, draft what you got. I feel like the cube tower does add a little bit of excitement. It does add a little bit of randomness. Sometimes you have some feast or famine going on where you've put something in there and it doesn't come out. And you were planning on it being there and it's not there. And then sometimes, you want to make sure that you time things right so that your opponents are putting their pieces in there so that you can buff up your actions for later when you do choose that color and you do get to place that assistant. So I think that, there's a lot of thought there, and I do ultimately like the cube tower being there. And it's just kind of fun too, and also the fact that you only get each of these actions once per round, with the exception of a wild, I think is really cool, because that does really force your hand in making sure that you plan out your timing of when you do things. So I really do like, both the cube tower and the fact that you get to kind of decide when these actions come up. I think the drafting is also really interesting as you get all of the Keshi of that color. So you can go in and you can plan, hey, I'm going to draft this color because I need it desperately, and I really, really need to do this action. But then 3 of one color pop out, and you're like, I can't pass that up. So I think that that's a lot of fun. I think the amount of hate drafting was very real, because you can kind of tell what your opponents are trying to do. And I do think that is a legitimate strategy as well. So I really liked that. Good amount of player interaction to be had there. I was very surprised what you can get done in 12 turns, which I think is a good representation of the engine building aspect of this. You're not going to be able to do everything, but you are going to be able to do a lot, and it is going to feel satisfying. So I really, really enjoyed the engine building perspective of it. The more powerful turns coming at the later end of the game, where you are just getting like 12 figs in one turn, and then you can trade those in for different things, and you can build different buildings, and you just feel very, very powerful at the end. It's like you're taking these huge actions, which is something that we love to do. As far as the teach goes, I feel like I could teach it a lot more easily now that it's come to the table. It was a process to get it there, though. I watched Paul Grogan's video twice. I read through the manual to try to make sense of it. Each of the actions is pretty straightforward, but it's really figuring out how to execute them in a timely manner, trying to figure out how it clicks, and how everything works, especially with that manual. Was just a little bit painful. I mean, for me, for someone who does read a lot of rule books, who does go and watch a lot of videos, maybe Rodney could have taught me better. I don't know.
We need like a Rodney bat symbol for when we need him most.
Rodney, please help. Please. I'm sorry. I think that diving into this, it was the hardest part of it. It was a bit painful. The first round or two was definitely a chore, but once we got through that, it was a lot easier to get through and pretty straightforward after that. So I would not recommend this as someone's first Feld by any means. at all.
Baby's first Feld.
Yeah, this is not Baby's first Feld. You know, you can do Bora Bora. You could don't do La Isla. That's...
Forgot about that one.
Yeah. Castles. Do Castles of Burgundy.
Absolutely do Castles. Castles should be your first.
It was amazing. It's such a good game.
Yeah.
And have somebody else teach you.
Yes. Well, yes, that is important.
Now I'm going to get to the part of my review that I'm like, hey, I love this game. It did a lot for me. But... Have you seen the but on my face the whole time where I'm just like, well... It's the expected but.
Yeah.
Once again, it's the same but. Color vision was a huge issue with this. There are so many colors that are used in this game. And while the game wasn't unplayable, I did have my friend Jordan, who was playing with me, separate all my Keshi colors into groups for me, so I was able to distinguish between them. It's a pretty big ask of somebody to have to do that.
And the thing is, the funny thing is like in my head, I was hoping that you were going to say the color blindness worked well for you, because as someone who can see all the colors of the rainbow perfectly, this is a very, it's very primary color. It is red, yellow, green, blue, and that is repeated throughout the whole presence. And I'm sure that has something to do with it probably being a bit cheaper. I could be wrong. I'm not saying that, they cut corners or anything like that. But I assume that, like, when you go for those very typical primary colors, everybody else is using them. For me, visually, it reminds me of, games from the 90s, games from the 80s, and it cheapens it a little bit.
You won't say that they cut corners, but I will.
Yeah, you can.
And that gets into a point in a minute that I'll make. But I will give them some credit. At least each action on the board was associated with a symbol.
Oh, good.
So you could separate those colors behind your player screen, and they did associate with, different action symbols. The problem is there's no symbols on the Keshi themselves.
I'm seeing it now. I'm like, those aren't different shapes. Those aren't different shape. There's no print on them. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. So I'm glad that there was at least a symbol, because if there wasn't, it would have been unplayable. Once I got things separated, I was able to, with the separation into different groups, I was able to distinguish them enough. But if somebody didn't have my type of color vision issues, they may have a pretty big issue with this game. And I feel like this could have been solved with like a sticker on each end of the Keshi to show the symbol that they're associated with. Yeah, it would have been a lot of work to put stickers on for the players themselves. But you could have thrown a couple of sticker sheets in and said, hey, if you have color vision issues, here's stickers for each of these. And again, I spent over $100 for each game in this collection.
You guys can't see my face right now, but
I feel like this was a cheap effort for that amount of money.
Oh no.
And I shouldn't need to go to the secondary market to get a solution for this. And I am, I'm going to say this, and I was going to save this for my final thoughts, but every game in the collection felt like that. It did not feel like it was something that was worth that amount of money, and I do feel very disappointed that I backed it. And that's my negativity for like the next 3 months of this podcast, because I don't like to be negative.
That was a kind critique.
I'm trying to be nice because goddamn.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate. Both in that, like, I'm disappointed that color blindness, like we've been so loud about it for so long, that is still coming up in games.
Yep.
So that off the bat, and then also it did seem you've got Steph and like when you've got a big name, you had so many, it's just unfortunate that this series kind of ended up the way that it did. And I understand the reason for that. There's multiple reasons why, but you want to do a service to the fans. You want to do a service to the people, especially if they're backing it on Kickstarter. So to hear the disappointment, I see it. I hear it. Yeah.
Yep. It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
It's so disappointing at this point. And I felt like they could have done a better job, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
I will find a way. I will find a way to figure this out, because I think that the game is worth it.
It looks like a very good game.
It's incredibly good.
Yeah.
And I will say, as far as my final thoughts go, here's what I had put down. I'm saddened that the accessibility factor has once again turned down what should have been a glowing review of one of Steffenfeld's finest, in my opinion, to date, to one with a huge asterisk behind it. I love the game. It's absolutely a keeper, in my opinion, and one that I have thought about since playing it, with some great mechanisms working together, some great engine building. But I am just incredibly frustrated at Queen Games for not tying up loose ends on their part, especially on a deluxe edition. And on a side note, talking about the City Collection as a whole, this was by far and away the best, followed by New York, and then probably Amsterdam, and then Hamburg. I really probably would only want the standard editions of everything but Marrakesh in retrospect. And this really has kind of cemented my position of not backing the Queen Games Kickstarters anymore at this point. Again, I don't like to be negative on this show, but I feel like I have to be honest about this, and I have to be honest about my disappointment in something that could have and should have been much better from a production standpoint. And something that I now have to rack my brain and figure out as a puzzle, I guess. Maybe that's a silver lining to this. I get to once again do the puzzle with Brian Chandler of trying to figure out how to make this accessible for people to play at my table.
What little face stickers can we stick on them? But yeah, I mean, it is key to what I always talk about with publishers, which is your community is key to your success, to your future success. And when you've got something like, and I understand, like with Kickstarters, you can muddy down the comments. You've got people who are heavy critics, and that's not you. You are the community that they should be looking for and they should be listening to. So hopefully it is something that they can work on in the future, but you're making good points is all.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's so incredibly frustrating when something was that good and we had that much fun playing it. I was talking with Jordan afterwards, and we were like, this was probably our favorite game behind something else that we played together. Because we played a lot of games together this year. We made a concerted effort to get together quite a few times and play some stuff. And, for that to weigh it down, I think was a little bit of a bummer. So that's my negative hat gone, because we are going to talk about positive stuff now. I was doing on the back half of this episode, but we're not splitting it up anymore. So I'm going to go right into it.
Yeah.
Let's go to the top 10 new to us games that we can't stop thinking about. And I want to explain the methodology behind this process. Because last year we had to do a top 10 list like everybody else. And, we went through and we tried to rank our top 10. And the more that I played this year, and there's one thing in particular that's going to be my first game that I feel like it would be unfair for me to categorize in a top 10 list. And I feel like the top 10 for me is in flux, because I like all of these for different reasons. Mm-hmm. And they really are the top 10 games that I haven't stopped thinking about since I played them. They're replaying in my head. I want to go back to them. I want to try them out again, or they taught me something that I didn't know could be done, or, you know, whatever they were. That's how we went about it. And I think you just didn't want to rank your games. So
there's anxiety. It's funny because I ended up ranking them no matter what, but I based a lot of my choices off of the experience in the play with all of the games. There's just, this was a really good year of playing games for me, and each one has probably a very sentimental feeling to them all. So I'm excited.
All right, I'm going to write down one of the games I feel is on your list.
I feel like it's probably going to be my number one.
Okay. I'm writing this down.
Uh-huh. I'm excited. I'm so excited for the reveal when it happens.
I feel like this is definitely one that you are going to have on your list, and was close on mine.
I love that.
It was very close on mine. Okay, so now we have to get to the question. I've been talking a lot, so if you want to go first, I will let you go first.
In our last episode, you went first, and I was like, oh, it would be fun if I go first. So I'm going to start off with a re-release. So the first one on my list was A Gentle Rain. And this one was released by Incredible Dream Studios, and designed by Kevin Wilson, who's just... The goal of this game is to place lake tiles in such a way that they encapsulate 8 different types of lilies, which bloom, if you get them all correct, before you run out of tiles and the rain ends. The reason that this one was on my list, I had brought it camping with me over the summer and introduced it to some friends. It was a really nice experience where you've got this game that can be played in the dirty out of doors and still walk away feeling very fulfilled in that experience. They also unexpectedly had lost their cat this year. Very, very young. It was a very sad experience. The only thing they could do that night was play this game that I had gifted them a copy of. It was just a very simple task. Again, you're laying out tiles. You can play a bunch of games in a row, feel very fulfilled at the end of it. It's not something where you're like trying to chase a high score or anything like that. It's just meant to create a really nice atmosphere and experience. And I think Incredible Dream did a really nice job with this re-release. And I'm so thankful they did it, because this was out of print for a really long time. And I love it.
It was very close to being on my list as well.
Yeah.
Because, you know, and the reason that I picked it up was solely because somebody on a different channel that won't be named, that Amabel Holland feels like this person has poor taste in hats, basically came to the conclusion, hey, at the end of the day, all games are toys. And it's like, well, I don't know if I agree with that. And second of all, these are toys that can maybe teach us some things.
Yeah.
And provide an experience. And I think it was on a list of pretentious games. And I was like, oh, I need to play this.
I will fight whoever that is, because I actually had someone reach out to, so I got my copy when it was out of print, and I had reached out to my community and said, hey, it'd be great if I could find a copy, if you guys know where a copy, that I could buy it. And someone just sight unseen sent it to me. This game, it's just such a wonderful, peaceful experience. And to think of it as pretentious is hilarious to me. And I hope that Kevin Wilson also would think that is hilarious, because this is, it's just like a really nice meditative experience that I loved.
Also a fantastic gift for those looking to do the remainder of their holiday shopping on Christmas Eve when this comes out.
Yes. Yep.
Go to Target.
Get
a copy. Okay. So this game that I'm going to talk about is kind of what got me into the mood of not ranking things this year. And that is Doubt Is Our Product. It is by Amabel Holland, produced by Holland Spiel from 2023. I think you'll understand how hard it is to rank this against some of the other games I have in here. Because to me, this game is more of an experience. It is more of a learning tool, a teaching tool, a simulation of the horrors that the tobacco industry, kind of instilled into the American public in the late 20th century. This was an outstanding, personal story from Amabel's perspective. It's very raw. It was a very visceral experience playing this and knowing, how that tied into her personal story as well as mine. That's something that was brought up on episode 100 that we talked about. And this still isn't a game that I necessarily want to go back to right away. It's not the kind of game that I'm going to get out on a regular basis and be like, oh, let's get Doubt as our product to the table. But it is one that I want people to check out. It is one that I want people to have that experience and to be able to learn from, because it is an important lesson that not only had consequences in that time period, but also you're seeing the same thing being repeated through history in a different means. So this one is why I could not rank my list this year, and kind of got me to realize that, maybe I talk about the games I'm still thinking about and were important to me, and I don't worry about, assigning a number to them.
Yeah, I remember when you had first got that one and were telling me, because it was between that one and I remember there was a religious one as well that she had done. Kind of
Nicaea.
just... Yeah, I was like, I can't remember if that one was just like, I just want to get this out. I want to get this game out there. But I feel like her designs, like this one, go to a very deep place. And it is it's a very specific experience when you play them. I have a similar game called I Guess This Is It, which is a game about saying goodbye. And when you find out someone's story, like you two did, it feels like that gets put into the game, and it's impossible then to leave it aside. It becomes part of that game and part of that experience, which I really like about.
Yeah, absolutely loved it. And again, not looking forward to getting it out any time like super soon, but yeah, really, really solid experience.
Yeah. On that note, my next game is just a goofy, dumb game. It's Blood Bowl, which is a miniatures game. But this one had a really powerful impact on me this year. So it's a Games Workshop game, really in the general Warhammer universe, designed by Jervis Johnson. It's basically fantasy football. You have a team based on certain archetypes. You've got orcs, you've got Skaven, rats, etc. Gnomes are the new ones. Vampires were mine. And it's just about essentially rolling dice and playing a football game between another opponent. It takes a very, very long time. I don't encourage anybody investing too much of their time and money in it like I have. But this was my first year starting it in a league. I had played one or two one-off games, and it was a league made up of mostly cishet men, which was very overwhelming to me at the jump. I really wasn't sure what kind of experience I was going to get going in. Immediately, it was just the wonderful time. Everybody has been really kind to me. The game is the game is stupid. It's very much about rolling dice and having fun and doing wacky, dumb things. So it's very hard to take it too seriously. So I've had really good experiences. One of my friends that I see regularly at conventions, he and I are constantly chatting about it. Shout out to Mur. I hope your game is going well tonight. But it's fun. It's good. And the community is really, really great, which is why I wanted to kind of add that one to my list this year.
I think that's a good one. That one's still sitting on my shelf of aspiration. I have the core set. I'm gonna
teach you all about it. There's a digital game too, I found out.
Yeah, so back in 2016, I tried to dive into the digital game because I think that's when it came out, and it bounced like right off me.
Yeah.
It like I could not. So I feel like if I had the tabletop experience and had it like right in front of me and had somebody teaching me, I feel like I could understand it a lot easier.
Yeah, I definitely approve every single new game being taught by somebody else. Learning it yourself can be quite overwhelming. And especially when you're diving into a universe that has been around for so long and has had players for so long. I don't remember what iteration we're on. It's like the 4th or 5th for Blood Bowl. 2020, they had recently updated the rules. But, you know, it's Games Workshop. They're going to create new rules all the time.
Always.
But I'll teach you it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. My second game is Apiary. This is by Connie Vogelman, published by Stonemaier in 2023. It is dice placement at its core. And who doesn't love Space Bees? Me.
Yeah. This one is on my list of I'm dying to play it. Someone please
so
teach it to me. Yeah.
It's so good. Again, next time you're in Ohio, we will play it along with a bunch of other things.
All of the things we mentioned today.
I have been thinking about this game all year since playing it with Jordan. I really do need to go back to Alien Frontiers, but anytime that I was playing a dice placement game, I was thinking about Apiary. So I was playing a Euphoria. I was thinking about Apiary. I was playing Bitoku, which in and of itself was a fantastic game and still sticking around. I was still thinking of Apiary. And I think my OG placement game was Alien Frontiers, and I'm not sure how it's going to hold up against Apiary at this point.
That's exciting. Ah, man. Yeah, that was another one. There's been some really good releases this year, I'm not going to lie, over the last like year or two. Great release after great release. And no one's had it, and so I haven't been able to play it yet. Once someone I know gets that to the table, I'll be itching to play because it sounds fantastic. And Connie is just great.
Very sweet person.
Yeah.
I really have enjoyed my interactions with Connie, the few that I've had.
Yeah. My next one, I'm really late to the game. It's Dune Imperium by that one Direwolf released, designed by Paul Dennen, who also did Clank, which is one of my favorite games. So Dune Imperium, this one is a game that uses deck building to add hidden information to the traditional worker placement. So you've got workers that you're putting out as well as deck building put into it. Sort of dissimilar to Clank. It is not necessarily that you're using the whole deck or, you know, like when you build your hand. It finds a lot of inspirations as well from like Dune Legacy. I don't want to call it a perfect game because I'm not great at calling that. It's fantastic. It has been, I played it, I'm not lying, I played it January of last year. Just one time. I have been obsessed with it since. I regularly say at game night, can we just play Dune Imperium, please? Will someone not play this? I'm thinking I'm just going to get together a group and force them all to play it with me again because it's just fantastic. Its worker placement is near and dear to my heart. Adding that deck building aspect to it is really, really great. I could have played that game for hours and still been very, very happy. I definitely lost the time that I played, and I just don't care. I'll have to see if that one, I can't remember if it's on digital or not, because maybe that's how I'm going to get my kick.
That's what I was just trying to look up.
Good.
I was trying to figure out if it was digital, and I don't know.
I don't think
it is.
I don't know if it is or not. I know that's the other thing is we've been playing Clank just got released digitally and we have been obsessively playing that as well on our Steam Deck.
Oh. Dune Imperium Digital is apparently a thing.
I have to. It's so good.
Get it on Steam, get it on Google Play. Oh, nice. Well, if you get it, let me know, and I will get it as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I would like to play some more of it.
You can't go... I mean, honestly, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with Direwolf. I really, really love the designs that they are putting out, and as well as all of their digital versions. They put out Cascadia and Calico recently, digitally, and those are also two of my favorite games. I'm obsessed.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. So my number 3, or, the third one that I'm going to talk about, not my number 3, is We're Sinking. This game, yep. You heard Olivia's reaction.
Yeah.
This one's by Joseph Frederick from Ludimus Games, released in 2024. It is a semi-co-op game about either working to make sure that your ship survives or making it sink even faster and just looting and plundering for all that it's worth. So I knew that Joseph put a lot of work into this. I've known Joseph for a few years at this point and basically got introduced to him through a mutual friend, Matt Hawker. And I looked at it and, it's that kind of, new publisher, back of the convention kind of thing that you're just like, yeah, okay, you're there. This is a clear indicator as to the fact that sometimes those are the best games that are out there. This would not have been on my radar if it had not been for the fact that Matt introduced me to Joseph. I was blown away by this game. The table presence is fantastic, first and foremost. I mean, that little ship is just so cool, and what it actually does. The gameplay is fantastic, and the interaction between the players is some of the best I had this year. We had a lot of great table talk. We had a lot of smack talk going around, but in the best way possible. Some games, everyone's out for themselves. Some games, everyone's working together, except for maybe one person. It is dynamic throughout the game. Sometimes one person is going in and trying to deliberately sink the ship and then decides, oh, wait a minute, I'm in the position to save the ship. Well, maybe I should. I love it. I think that it is such a really, really well done game. There's a lot of variety that's included in the core box as well. And there is an expansion out already that I do need to make sure that I pick up because it's a fantastic game. If you haven't heard about it, if you are new to the podcast, make sure that you look this one up and check it out because we had such a fun time with this game.
The production quality alone, I remember being shocked by the insert, the ship, the plastic ship that slowly ends up sinking. All of the bits, all of the cards, all of it. But I feel like it's important that I set the scene here. When I played this with you, this was the last game of an all-day gaming day. I don't know how to describe it. We were playing games all day. It felt like the middle of the night. It felt like we need to go to bed, but let's just try this one more game. And I remember thinking on the offset, the arts are very kind of cartoony. And so I'm like, well, it's probably going to be, I probably know what I'm getting into with this. It's going to be very simple, not a lot of nuance to it. It wildly shocked me. I was hooting and I was hollering. It was such a good time. The secret action taking, how you can choose to loot or how you can choose to work cooperatively was hilarious because I do enjoy lying a little bit. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the monsters, it ended up being a very tight co-op, which I feel like there are times where cooperative games end up being very easy that first time you play. This one still felt pretty tight. And that's because you've got these secret action taking. That really makes or breaks what kind of game you're going to have. It's a delight. I loved it. I didn't put it on my list because I knew you were going to say it. I was like, I shouldn't even bother because you've got it on your list.
I had to.
I loved that game. I can't remember if this was from the same weekend, but my next pick is Logic and Lore, and this one's from Weird Giraffe Games. Technically coming out in 2025, but I backed it on Kickstarter this year and also played it with you, and that was another one where I was itching to play more. This one's designed by Jason Hager and Darren Reckner. I love Darren. I love his designs, so I'm always excited to play something new from him. And it is a cozy but competitive deduction game for 2 players. You're racing to be the first to align your hidden stars, which are numbered 1 through 9, while your mice are manipulating the available insights. So you're trying to work quickly, pay attention to what numbers are revealed, and make sure you get them in that sequential 1 through 9 order to be the first of the 2 to do that. It's incredibly clever, the way that you reveal certain cards, the way that you get your information, and that information is sort of given to you, but given to you in clues. And then there are added difficulties that you can put into the game if you want it to be a little bit more difficult. It's fantastic. It's just fantastic.
And I was really surprised at this one also nearly made my list. Like, it was on there before I took it off in favor of something else. But it was very close, and for the same reasons, like you said. I think that there is so much to like with this. It's such a small card game that packs such a punch, from a gameplay standpoint, which is what I'm always looking for. And I think that I was blown away by, the fact that even the base game, there was a lot to love by it. And then you kicked up the gear a notch and went to the advanced game, and it opened up like a whole new paradigm for the game.
And that was one that I definitely walked away from almost just like wanting to think about the puzzle again, because it was really like you're working out a puzzle with just a couple of cards, really. And I was dying to get back into that game. I was dying to play it again. Carla also put out another game that went to Kickstarter this year, but it's releasing, I think, next year, which is Reef and Ruins, which should be on my list. But because we just played the unfinished version, I know I'm going to be talking about it next year. So be prepared, everybody.
Mm-hmm. My 4th game is The Gang. This was by John Cooper and Corey Heath by Cosmos in 2024. It's cooperative Texas Hold'em. That is the long and short of it. Y'all have heard me talk about it enough on this podcast. I have taught people who had no idea how to play poker the gist of the game in 5 minutes, which was made possible by an excellent hand reference guide. I think if you've had somebody that has played poker and plays this a couple of times, they are very easily able to teach it to just about anybody. And it's an outstanding game for beginners. There's a lot of people that I taught this to with no knowledge, no desire to ever play poker. And they come away from this being like, oh, is this what poker is? This is fun. And it's like, well, yes and no. You're not working together at the casino. If only I could have those chips that was like, oh, yeah, I very clearly have a 1-star hand. But working on communicating through those chips and getting on the same page is simultaneously frustrating and rewarding. And I think that the beat of the game is just so entertaining. This might be my favorite card game to come out of Cosmos yet. I was a huge fan of The Crew. I'm a huge fan of Inside Job, but I still think that this could be my favorite, small box card game that they have come out with, period.
You're going to have to go 2 times in a row because this was also on my list, so I'm just going to yoink it right off. This was my absolute favorite game of 2024. Not just for the experience that we had the same day playing games all day. Everybody that walked into the door, I was just like, please, can we play The Gang? That's all that I'm thinking about. That's all that I want to play. I thought it was like you said, a really great way to teach Texas Hold'em. I walked away understanding that a lot more. Not that I'm going to go play, not that I'm going to Vegas or anything to go play this. Single person that has sat down and played with me, because I eventually got my own copy, has said, I would like to go out and buy this game. And it's Cosmos, so it's $15. They pack a punch for so little money. Like, it's a great game. And another one where you can add some difficulty if you want to the game, where you can choose to play with a variant. I love it. I love it. I think it's a great game.
It's so good.
Yeah. So yeah,
right.
That's you've got to go on to the next game now.
I will go on to my next game, which is Iki. This was by Kuda Yamada and published by Hachette from 2015. It did see a re-release recently. This is a game about building up shops and putting artisans in them in Edo, Japan. And it's a very chill game. It's not, about like exploiting or, anything like that. It is about building up a storefront, building up this community rondelle that you're going to be moving around, and then trying to protect those artisans from fire and make sure that they're able to do their job, which is really cool that I liked about that. The rondelle system was the most fascinating part of this to me, and this is a game that I still don't own, but one that I am actively looking for on the secondary market. And that's just because Jordan has the game, and I was just like, okay, as long as he's got it, I'm fine, but I still want my own copy of it. I think the rondelle is very interesting because you get benefits for retiring your artisans and this like passive income, but you also get rewards for having opponents use their services. And that puzzle of when do I retire them? When do I put them out? When do I get some new artisans in here? Do I get new artisans in here? Was a great puzzle. Figuring out where to move, figuring out when to, take a benefit that was available to you and when not to, because that was going to benefit your opponent too much, I thought was really, really interesting. A lot of things to think about with a relatively easy, game system behind it as well. So I thought that was a very interesting game. Again, one that I still don't own, but I would like to in the future.
It's stunning, too. That one's been on my list of wanting to try out. It's funny because I don't have a ton of Hachette releases, and they come out. I mean, obviously, they're a larger company that is taking in other publishers' designs and bringing them to our market. But they have a way of making a very stunning game, and the presence of that one has always really intrigued me. So it's nice to see that, like, both beautiful and plays really well.
Yeah.
My next choice is also a Hachette release. It was originally from Unfriendly Games, and that's Nikojima, designed by David Carmona and Karen Nguyen. This one is it's like a wooden dexterity game in which you've got to keep the entire installation in balance. So there are these wooden pieces that vary in height, and players take turn placing them and stacking them on essentially electrical poles, respecting the location that is rolled with a dice, without any of the hanging cables, which are these like little strings touching. It's another one that's just like very beautiful. I had a really nice experience playing with Charlotte and Patrick after Gamma. And it was just like a nice little, we're winding down the week. We're both very, very exhausted and playing this very cute little cat game surrounded by their cats as well. I really liked it. I'm not a huge dexterity person, but this one felt very, very nice to play. Very, very quick. And they also had the like very like fancy version that was like tied up very, very pretty. I really, really liked that one. And just, again, another one that has like very nice table presence.
Yeah, this is a game that I've been surprised more often than not with dexterity games, and I'm kind of like half and half with them. but it's been one that I've wanted to try at some point because I have seen it multiple places. I have seen it, where it's at the point of, do I just pick this up to try it, or should I be good and, actually stick to my guns and play something before I pick it up. So definitely want to play that.
Really nice game. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the varying shapes and heights of those cylinders. So trying to decide which one you're going to place or pick up was an interesting choice. Yeah, no, it was a great game.
I love that. My next game is Reef and Ruins.
I see, and the thing is, I had a moral issue. I was like, do I do this one because it was okay, story time for everybody. We demoed this when it was just on a printed piece of paper and just whatever D6s Carla had. At the end of that game, I walked away and said to Carla, I need you to make this game. I will pay for you to make this game if you decide not to, because I'm so desperate to continue playing it. It's so good.
I got the reviewer copy, so I figured that I would include it on this list because I played enough of it through the reviewer copy and everything that it was published enough that I felt confident putting this on my list.
Give me, I know I'm going to get it. I backed it on Kickstarter, right?
So
I know it's coming,
it's
but
so good.
For a roll and write game, the choices that you could make and the kind of chaining off of good choices felt really delicious and good. And I really enjoy games, even if I'm losing or not paying attention to who's winning. I like to be able to walk away and feel like I made some fun decisions that felt really nice.
Mm-hmm. And it's so snappy. Before you know it, the game is over.
Yep.
But in a good way.
Yeah.
In a, hey, let's do this again kind of way. Not a okay, yeah, we did that and I'm glad that it's over. I just want to play it again after I'm done with it. And I would say that, there's a couple of contenders, but this is possibly my favorite roll and write of all time.
I'm so excited.
It's so good in what it does, and I absolutely adore it. I think that it is such a good game. I'm so excited for it to get out to people. Carla Kopp, Weird Giraffe of 2025 release, by the way. Just want to make sure that I got that in.
I immediately started talking about it because I'm obsessed.
Also, Hydra.
Yeah. Yep.
Come on.
It's a funny thing of just I don't feel well versed enough to know what is a perfect great game. I just know that I personally walked away completely obsessed, and I have not stopped thinking about it since we played in February or March of last year.
I think it was March.
Man, that's going to be a good one, and you will see me preaching it for years to come.
And it goes just about everywhere that I go at this point. I brought it to PAX. Sadly, I did not get to play it with anybody at PAX. I wanted to, which I did get to play Carla's new game that's on that verge, that point.
Stop.
And
Stop. I
can't
want to
go
know all
into
about
it
it
anymore because I know that you're just going to want to know about it. So that is Reef and Ruins. Go check it out if you haven't. I think it might be available to late pledge, but if it's not, go get it at retail. You won't 100%. Regret it.
You're not going to regret. 2 Weird Giraffe games on our list so far. They're just fantastic. So, okay. Well, I'll be bothering you about that other design then later.
Yeah. We'll chat.
My next choice on my list of lists is Caution Signs by Wacky Wizard Games. And this one was designed by Scott Brady and Danielle Reynolds. This is a fun party game. So each round, you're essentially presented with a secret combination of an adjective and a noun. So some of the examples are like stylish rhino, gassy monkeys, flexible cow. There's literal thousands of combinations are possible. And then you just have 20 seconds to sketch that image of the combo on a caution sign. And then all of those images are secretly revealed to the round guesser, along with the entire list of individual adjectives and then the entire list of individual nouns. And so the guesser has to look at the sign and figure out which objective from that pile goes to which sign along with each noun. This one I played late night at Gen Con with some friends and was hilarious. The way that we would reveal very similar adjectives or very similar nouns, like a horse and a donkey at the same time, and you're trying to decipher someone's drawn image of like, well, is that a horse? Is this a donkey? This has got a shorter tail. It brought about hilarity that I have not gotten from like a party game in a really, really long time. I really love anything in which I can draw because I draw like crap and I think that that's funny. I do. I love people trying to guess the dumbness that I have created. But this one was just a good time.
I love a good drawing game that doesn't center the drawing, if that makes sense.
That is key.
Because I think we're both in the same boat where we're not great at drawing at all. And in some games, that feels very bad.
Yes.
I like the games. I think Monstrosity is one that I gravitate towards because of that, of the fun factor.
Yeah.
I think there was Pictomania as well, does a really good job of that too. And this is one that I apparently need to check out as well because I really like games that just it's not a factor.
Yeah.
And it actually sometimes winds up enhancing things.
Yeah. I think we ended up I think we just screwed up the points, and eventually we're just like, we agree, right? None of us are playing for points. And we're like, no, we just want to get through everybody's guesser once and just like experience it. And it's just one of those games similar to like a Telestrations where you're just you just want to have the table talk at the end, which is great.
I love that. So my next one is The Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. This is by Josh J. Carlson, Michael Gurnes, Logan Gianni, Ryan Howard, Salem Scott, and Josh Wiggis, by Chip Theory Games, published in 2025. I'm sorry, you can't get it yet. This is a epic adventure short form campaign game that is very much in vein of kind of Too Many Bones. I did a video of it. It is the one game that I was like, this is too epic to just do a podcast review. I need to show people. So you can go on YouTube and check that out. I loved this game, and I love Too Many Bones. And I do think that if you go and check out the review, you will find out more of my thoughts between the two. I feel like I'm going to keep both of them, but I will probably be playing more Elder Scrolls than Too Many Bones in the basically near and intermediate future, because there's so much to explore. There's so much craziness. You know, I have a history with the Elder Scrolls going back to Oblivion and then Skyrim, obviously. So seeing some of those familiar places being portrayed in board game form, while also not exactly taking itself too seriously, but still being serious. So it's just the right amount of humor. It's fun. You can do really goofy, broken stuff in there, which I love doing in the games. So it was very obvious that the 4 years of development that they took with this game, it absolutely shows in the gameplay that they've delivered. It's something that I originally did not back this game because I didn't think that I was going to have the time to make for it. Then I was offered a review copy, and they said, as long as you can make the time for it. And I said, well, I kind of have to at this point. Yeah. I'm so glad that I did. It was consuming most of my gaming time for quite a while. I lived on my table for months underneath the little, stacking, little inserts there. And it lived there for months for good reason. It will be back out in the new year once I get some backlog taken care of, because I want to share this with other people. I want other people to experience it. I want to get more, try more characters, go to different places, explore more of Skyrim. And I think that is, really one of the main things I came away with, and not necessarily just Skyrim, but all the different areas of the game. Just explore the lore that they put in there and all of the work that they did. It's just admirable what they've done with this game.
I really need to try literally any of their games because I still have not had a chance, and I know I would love all of them because everybody that I know and trust loves them, and it's like, you should play them. We'll add it to the list.
Yes.
Add that one.
Yeah.
My next game is from a new studio. It's called Captain Flip. So, complete spoiler, this is another publisher that I work with in my job. It's from Playpunk Studio. So this is a new studio headed by Thomas Provost, who designed Just One, and then Antoine Bauza, of Tokaido, Hanabi, and more. This specific release, Captain Flip, was designed by Remo Consadori and Paolo Mori. It's excellent. It's a game of obvious simplicity, explained in less time than a cannonball shot, because what you're doing is you are playing on these little pirate ships. They're just like tiny little maps. On your turn, you're drawing a tile from a bag, and like the title, you can either flip that tile, or you can leave it as is. If you flip it, it must remain flipped, and then you place it on your board. They're essentially crew members. Very, very simple way of just either you're earning points straight from that tile, or you're earning points at the end of the game, depending on what that tile does. Really a simple filler game with a little bit more depth of kind of the push your luck. Do I flip this tile or not? I have been playing this constantly. This is one I really like to play on Board Game Arena because it's on there and plays in like 10 minutes with somebody. Really, really simple rules, but depending on which map or board you're using, every game can be pretty unique, and you're kind of rooting for certain crew members to come out that you're trying to gain points on. Just a simple design that's very, very fun. And the studio is going to be putting out more this year. I think we showed off one of them at PAX. I won't get into it because I'm not here to push Playpunk, but I think their designs are really solid. And this one won't leave my table.
Yeah, I did play this a few times on BGA. I have not been able to play it in person as of yet, but I enjoyed the times I played it on BGA. Like you said, it's so simple to teach. I think that it's a nice, gateway game for somebody just coming in while still offering some great choices, which, I think we all agree is a lot of what we're looking for when we're playing with newer players. We want to be engaged as well.
Yeah.
I love that. My next one is Flip 7. This is by Eric Olson, published by The Op from 2024. This is my other small box game that I haven't stopped thinking about. And much like Olivia said with the gang, every single group that I have played this with, at least someone has immediately gone and either bought it or pre-ordered it if it's been on back order. It's sold. It sells itself. It's really a pressure luck game. It's kind of like blackjack in a way where you don't want to bust out. If you get two of the same number in front of you, you bust. So, you keep drawing until you say stop, or you hit 7 number cards, in which case you get a nice little bonus. And then I think it's when somebody hits 300, that's when the game is over and you figure out who won. It's been a hit every single time that it's come to the table. It's so easy to teach. It's incredibly exciting, especially with a full table of people, and it's just overall fun. I got this to the table with senior leadership of a major company, and they absolutely had a blast with it, and they really enjoyed it. So it's just such a fun game, and so snappy, and just a really, really good time, even when you're losing.
I love those moments where we can introduce a new game to people that aren't necessarily, looking for anything to play, or just like having a moment kind of outside of the hobby in your regular day-to-day life. Those games mean a lot to me. And this one was on our stack of games that we also should have played when I was in town last. But I wanted to play the game too much. And that's my bad, apparently.
Nothing wrong with that.
I know.
They're both wonderful games.
Next time. The next one on my list is Wild Gardens. This one was released from Rose Gauntlet Entertainment. One of my favorite publishers, just really good people doing really wonderful things in the hobby. It was designed by one of the co-founders of Rose Gauntlet, which is Isaac Vega, who's done a lot. He's designed a lot of games. So this is kind of the icing on the cake. I really like this design. It is a strategy game for 1 to 4 players. And you're taking on the role of foragers, and you're just competing to cook delicious meals for your guests, and you're traveling to like different locations, carefully planning your moves to gather ingredients, upgrade your skills, complete the recipes, and then serve those to your guests. Something that Rose Gauntlet is great for is their diversity in their games. So all of the guests, there's so many cards. All of their guests all have very unique and special art in their individuality, as well as like what recipes you're cooking for them. The recipes themselves are very diverse. It's fun to see what comes up in each game. This was another one that I play tested both their solo and competitive versions before it had come out. So to see its final release was very, very special for me, kind of looking back on all of the hours that I spent literally just crying over the solo content. Their solo narratives are really compelling and have it's I don't want to call it like very deep meaning, because like some of it is very simple, but like you can pull a lot out of it, which I loved doing in this game. And it's just about foraging, so it's a very cozy game. For me, it doesn't replace Wingspan, but it is a very close comparison in my eyes, because you only have a certain number of action cubes that have numbers on them that affect like how you choose what you're doing that round. And there are ways to kind of upgrade your choices each round that passes by. It's a really lovely design, and I just want to cry thinking about it. It's very lovely.
So this game I had not heard of before the Big Gay Dinner, because I wasn't very familiar with Rose Gauntlet's. Like, I knew the foundation work,
yeah,
but I wasn't familiar with their work as a publisher. And then we got these cute little animals from the game, like these little stuffed animals.
You got the plushies?
Yes, yes.
I love them.
Allie and I each got one, and we love them so much. And like, we looked at it and we're like, what's Wild Gardens? And then we looked, and it's like, we need to seek out this game and at least play it. I got the opportunity to meet Isaac while I was in Philadelphia, and just a genuine good human being, and really does a lot for the community. And I'm really interested to try this game now that it comes with your recommendation. It's definitely something that I think not only myself but also Allie would really enjoy.
Isaac and Lindsay are really, really good people and very intentional in their work in the industry. They both come with a background prior to starting Rose Gauntlet. And like you had mentioned with Big Gay Dinner, there is a lot that they're doing on the industry side of things for those of us who are involved to try and make it a safer and welcoming space. And I think they really succeed in that. And they're very earnest in that. So I love the design and I love what they're doing.
That's amazing. So my second to last game is Kanban EV. This is by Vital Lacerda, Eagle Griffin Games, published in 2020. It is a game all about efficiency and making cars in a factory. So I love the quirkiness of the gallerist, and I thought that it was a really cool game. That was my first Lacerda. Kanban beat this by far as my favorite Lacerda game that I've played. And I think from my standpoint, I'm an engineer. It really kind of focuses on the things that I understand. I really love, streamlining engine building, trying to find new ways to be efficient with, my actions and my time. So really streamlining everything and trying to make the best use of your resources as possible was just so satisfying. Everything felt like it flowed well, and the gameplay kind of represented, that, kind of assembly line mindset as well, which I thought was a really cool tie-in. I can't speak highly enough of this game. It was one of my early ones this year that I was finally able to get out to the table, and I still have thought about it to this day. Like, we really need to get back to Kanban at some point.
I'm obsessed with Lacerda's designs. I very much would love to interest you in Lisboa because it's
I need to play it.
The funny thing is I had a weekend with friends where I played Rococo. Thought that I was buying Rococo and instead bought Lisboa. I don't know. I was sleepy when I bought it. I don't remember. But I had messaged the publisher and they were like, well, we already sent it to you. If you want, you can return it. And I was like, well, I'll just play it just to see if I like it. But I was terrified of it. Genius. It's a genius design. And Kanban has been on my list since playing Lisboa because I really like that kind of efficiency in the choices that you're making. Also very stupid, but both of my parents worked at General Motors, which, created cars. And I love the tie back to that of this idea of just like, we're making cars. Who thinks of that? I don't know. There are some board games where it's like, why did you think this would be a great idea? And also, it's a great idea. I'm dying to play it. But yeah, I want to play that one.
That old wallpaper is probably my number one. Somebody thought of this and Nathan Thornton thought of it. And my mom was like, who thought of this? And I was like, yeah, it's Nathan Thornton. He, just thought of it and just said, why is there not a game about old wallpaper, and made it. And
I just love it. Yeah.
I love that that's a thing that we just do.
Yeah. And it's a thing that we do and that we're both just like, hell yeah, I'm excited to play this game about wallpaper. Like, yes, I am actually.
Let me play your game about some random obscure event from, the 1940s or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, the last one on my list, it's a big one. It's Arcs from Leader Games. I had to put it on there. This one was designed by Cole Wehrle, so yet again, another Cole Wehrle game on my list. I'm sure many of you listening have heard of it already, but it's a sharp sci-fi strategy game for 2 to 4 players, set in a very silly universe with very silly aliens in it. Players represent officials from distant, decaying, and neglectful empire who are now free to vie for dominance, whether through battle, gathering resources, or diplomatic intrigue. This one throws in a trick-taking element. It's a very minor element to it, but at the same time, it is key to gameplay. I really enjoy Cole's designs because you can take that element and kind of be mean with it if you so choose. On this one, you don't necessarily have to do the battling through dominance, but I don't hate it, and I like to try for it. It's great. It's great. There's a campaign or an option. I think it is an expansion for a campaign of just 3 games. I found that to be quite genius. It's unlike a game I've ever played, if I'm going to be honest. I really don't know how to properly go over the type of choices that you get to make in that game. And I really appreciate walking away from a design and going, I want to think of it differently the next go around, or I want to try this different faction and see how that affects things. Yeah, this one really left me wanting to come back to it time and time again. I have continually lost in it. Maybe that plays into it, but it's just a great design.
It is a game that was very much, I did get a review copy of it for transparency. It has been at the top of my list for I need to play this. I brought it with me to PAX. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to play it. I kind of want to avoid my first play of it at 2 because I heard that the 2-player game is one of the most mean games that you can play.
Well, and here's the thing, though. It depends on who you play with. I have a friend, him and his wife had played, and they typically don't enjoy being mean to one another, and they opted for, again, the other way, gathering resources, diplomatic intrigue. And it worked well at that. Like, they really enjoyed the time. But if you play with that friend who has to battle, 2-player, I mean, for me, 2-player feels a little bit nicer in that I only have one person to target. It's gonna be you. You don't feel attacked. But yeah, depending who you play with, that might be rough.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely up there, but I do absolutely want to get this out. I have been itching to play it and really, really want to get it out to the table. So I'm hoping maybe this weekend, which, you know, if you are listening to this, would have been last weekend or whatever, because we're recording this early. I'm actually being a good person and doing my stuff up front this week. So yeah, really want to play that and hopefully get it to the table soon.
Yeah, I'm excited for you. I hope you get to play that one. It's just fantastic.
So this is what I wrote.
Yeah. I was afraid. Okay, before she says what the game is, I was very afraid of adding too many from my publishers that I work with. And this was one of them where I was like, is it fair? Is it fair? But it's so good.
It's so good. It did not make my list either. Okay. So I will give an honorary shout out to Tower Up. And I think the reason that this, you know, was in consideration for my list is it's just so streamlined. It's so easy to teach. It's so easy to put out on the table and get people to understand, like, this is what you're doing. The action structure is so simple, yet the gameplay in it is so fantastic. I highly recommend people go check that game out because it was such a good experience. So that one was Tower Up by Monolith Games. And again, they're one of the publishers that I work with. I ended up teaching this at Gen Con for our press night. One of the easiest teaches I think I'll ever get in my lifetime. And another one that, like, repeatedly I heard, and I also felt that, like, when I first saw it on the table, I was like, yeah, it's city building. I've seen this. You couldn't possibly be doing anything different that I haven't already seen. And I was completely blown away with how difficult the choices can end up being and what it is you get to do on your turn. I'm looking forward to what else they put out. That's all I'll say on that. Yeah, absolutely. I am really looking forward to whatever they come out with next. I'm definitely going to be trying it. So my last game is Endeavor Deep Sea. This is by Carl DeFisser, Jarrett Gray, published by Burn Island and Grand Gamers Guild from 2024. This is a game about developing sustainable environmental projects and conserving the ocean, which is a complete overhaul from previous Endeavor and the Endeavor Age of Sail games, both of which dealt with colonization and some other problematic themes in addition to colonization. And it basically flipped the script and said, hey, we don't have to have this game about this. We are going to take this system, which people really love, but they hate the theme, and we are going to put it into something that is actually productive and is a great theme. And I think all around, one of the things that really stood out to me was the sustainable packaging, the insert, everything being biodegradable, and then you get into the outstanding gameplay of this game. The engine building in it is amazing. The exploration aspect of it, where you get to go and you get to flip this tile, which has new things to do on it, and you get a little bonus for being the one to explore it. And it may have something on there that you want to do, but you've got some backup options in case it's not, and then you go and get to do all these different things. And I think it's just such a winner for me, because of all of these aspects wrapped up in one. And I do want to give a shout out to Burn Island and Grand Gamers Guild for taking something that was problematic and re-releasing it to something that more people can now enjoy. I know I was having a discussion with T. Kairas, and that was one of their, big games that they absolutely loved getting into the hobby early. And now this is something that they can come back to, and they can say, hey, I don't have to be ashamed to bring this to the table and look at it in a, negative light. I can bring this to the table and have people see what a great game this is from a mechanical standpoint and not have this shadow.
And just
overhead.
To go completely full circle, as if I've planned this, another thing of community matters with your games. Community, loving a game, not loving a theme, coming back to that design and saying, hey, we listened, and creating a really thoughtful experience with good game design that was already there. I love to see that. I love to see that from Burnt Island Games, so that's lovely.
Yeah. Absolutely love them for doing that. And I wanted to wrap up with that one because I think it's one of the biggest feel-good stories. We went from, a game that is very depressing to play but very impactful to a game that's a feel-good story about something that took a negative and made it a very big positive. So
I'm so happy. These whole 2 hours we've spent together have made me very happy.
And it's flown by, too.
Yeah, it always does.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll probably chat for another half an hour plus after we get done with this. But we will wrap this up. It's been 2 hours. Thank you all for listening. Olivia, how can people get a hold of you on your socials?
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky. I'm still calling it Blue Ski. You can find me on Instagram. You can probably find me on Facebook, though I'm a little bit more selective with that one because I'm not present. I'm not very present on many of these. And yeah, you can always find me on Board Game Arena if you ever want to play games. It is at Olo Plays for all of those.
Yep. Good SEO as opposed to what I had to do, which I'm getting better at it. Yeah. Fortunately, the person who took my handle on that site that I don't go to anymore, I don't go there. So it's great. So one thing that I did want to bring up before I give out my socials, I will be in the Pacific Northwest, January 10th through 12th at OrcaCon, and I will be in Seattle for a few days after that as well, doing some interviews with some really cool people. I'm very excited to bring you those, one of which that I can announce, and I know that they have talked about it as well on their show. I will be doing a live recording with Our Family Plays Games on Sunday the 12th at, I believe it's 10 a.m., and I'm super excited. Actually, it's 11. I think we made it.
I'm so excited. When I saw you announce this, I was like, yep, this is exactly what I needed.
Yep. It's a great pairing. I have wanted to do this for so long. It will be my first live recorded show. So anything can happen. There might be surprises. There might be a giveaway of something, possibly. We'll see. So I am looking forward to that. But if you want more information on that, you can check my socials. My Instagram and Blue Sky is at Cardboard Time. And I'm also on Facebook if you search for Cardboard Time. The website is cardboardtime.com. The Discord is on the Tabletop Express server. You can always go to the website or send me an email for an invite, which is cardboardtime@gmail.com, where you can also send any questions, suggestions, or ideas for those discussion topics. So, Olivia, again, what a treat it was to do this once again with you, what has become a fantastic annual tradition. And looking forward to 2025, where I'm sure Reef and Ruins will be on your list, as well as 9 other games that we have to look forward to. But
thank you. It's actually going to be all 10 are Reef and Ruins.
Everything.
I'll see you next year.
Oops, all Reef and Ruins. All right. So as always, thank you all again for listening, and we'll see you around the table in the new year for another episode of Cardboard Time.